final session for today, ladies and gentlemen, is looking at technology and innovation and Islamic investing in North America. Very pleased to welcome Mr. Ishmam Ahmed, Managing Director of Hoya Advisory, who is Moderator. Joining Ishmam is Fahad Siddiqui, founder and CEO of Mabrook, and also Saad, Malik, CEO and co-founder of Zoya. Ishmam.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. You guys hear me loud and clear? I feel the post-lunch snooze hitting in the room a little bit. Well, I'll keep it short. So, thank you guys for coming in. So, with all this technology that we keep hearing about AI, de-tokenization, crypto, all these crazy conversations, what do you think is really reshaping the access to Shariah-compliant investments in North America, and what really needs to actually change?
Everyone. So I think we have covered it a lot today. It's all about framework and awareness, education side. So I think a lot of technology is coming, but as the other panel members have mentioned a lot, that awareness is the basic hurdle. And it's not here in US. One of the startup I did post-COVID was Planet. Basically, it's Islamic finance academy. And what it does is just educate everybody what is, for example, Islamic finance in a very simple term. So I think that's a gap. And then the framework also, I mean in Canada, where I belong, we have seen Halal policy coming in, and I think we need the state level, federal level regulations, some incentive basically coming from the regulators, like maybe, I don't know, maybe some tax incentive, maybe some tax saving products that can be tied up with those Islamic finance products. I think those are the frameworks, and education, I think those are the main challenges. Coming from the technology side, I don't see any human capital issues now, because a lot of innovations are happening, and the next generation, which are really, they are really into technology, they are making a lot of potential, like Saad and Siddiqui. That's my take.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of discussion around education on all the sessions, and I think part of the problem is folks who aren't aware that Islamic finance exists and that it's a thing that they would be interested in, and then the other half of it are people who are interested but can't seem to get the answers that they're looking for. And so I think what's important is to meet people where they're at. I don't think the answer is necessarily more products, although that's obviously also needed. You can make as many products as you want, but if you can't get in front of the right people, then that's a big issue. And so on our side, for instance, at Zoya, what we do is we've been looking at where are all the different places that people are talking about these things. And so one of the things that we noticed just through our website alone, which previously didn't have much helpful information, we saw in our analytics that people were landing on there by searching for things like, what is halal investing? Is the S&P 500 halal? Is Bitcoin halal? And these are questions that we didn't previously address, but after seeing that, we thought, okay, well, let's create content for exactly what they're asking for, meet them where they're at, and then get them introduced into kind of a broader, here's the purpose behind Islamic finance and halal investing. And that has worked tremendously well for us. And so today, if you were to go check, is Apple stock halal, you're going to find our website #1. If you search the S&P 500 halal, you're going to find our website #1. On TikTok, if you search what is halal investing, you'll probably find our video #1. And so these are, I think, important things. And now with the, obviously, advent of AI into the mix, people are now trying to optimize for AI answers. So people are asking questions to AI about halal investing, and they're landing on Zoya because we answered all those questions. And AI is simply just, they're trained on public data. We have a ton of data out there. And so they're typically recommending us. So much so that now AI accounts for, I believe, they're the second highest source of traffic for us after Google search. So ChatGPT and DeepSeek and such is #2 now. So I think it's incredibly important to meet them where they're at, and that's going to require a little bit of getting creative when it comes to content and educational material.
Which actually, will close pretty well into our next question about what role can fintech or advisories or other AI platforms really play in making Islamic investments more accessible and scalable in North America?
You know what's up?
I'm not speaking. I don't know if you have.
Oh, so I'll start. So one thing in between AI and the other technology is the blockchain. I think the accessibility is number one. I mean, coming from the retail banking background for 18 years, I've seen a lot of innovation in the retail banking. Like you can seamlessly send remittance, you can get instant credit, instant loan, and everything. But I've seen capital market side really struggling. There's still on the old legacy system. There's a lot of disconnectivity. Standardization is another issue. You know, just like Swift, we have hand codes happening. In blockchain, we have Ripple, and Ripple has there's some standard happening to do the settlement of the transaction. Capital markets still they are in silos. So blockchain, where I see and this is where the Mabrook, one incepted, that if we can really automate the entire process and make it so accessible that the distribution of the private distribution towards the retail market to access the funds or the assets which were not affordable by a simple person, like every person on the street. I think that's coming really fast, and we have seen we are witnessing it on the crypto world, because now 3.4 trillion assets which are there in a high volatile market. We haven't seen that adoption so fast. So I think blockchain is coming fast, and of course AI couples it. Because AI can basically streamline a lot of back office. As Saad mentioned that chatbot is one of the things that can automate. We can also automate a lot of KYC and the risk factors scoring that we can do. And we are at Mabrook, we are basically experimenting on it. That how can we basically do a decision matrix, and we don't need a back office to basically approve or detect the customer, and then we just use the AI to do that. So I think combination of blockchain and AI make it so accessible, the assets which we are going to bring into the retail market, that is going to it's going to be a game changer. I say that it's like you put that capital market now, that capital market is on some rocket or road, it's going to go really fast on that. So that's what we're doing.
So for those who aren't familiar, so my company Zoya, we're a fintech operating in the retail investing space, and we like to think of ourselves as like the voice of the retail investor when it comes to halal investing. We have hundreds of thousands of users who use our platform. We have over $500 million of assets monitored through our platform. So these are self-managed by our users through our platform. And we cover global public equities across the board when it comes to Sharia compliance. So we've become sort of a trusted source in this space. And now we're also doing transactions on our platform as well. So first we started off as a research platform, and now we have brokerage integrations in place where users are actually transacting through our platform. We operate purely as a fintech. And so everything we've been able to do is because of the fintech landscape that exists today. We are not a broker, we are not an investment advisor, and so we are able to do these things by partnering with existing providers. And as you know, now there are essentially APIs for really anything. If you wanted to launch a trading app, there are trading APIs. If you wanted financial data, there are APIs that provide that. And so that's what we've used to essentially build our business, and we've been able to do that in a way that is low cost to the end user and frictionless, because we don't have to require KYC. That's, I think, one of the biggest hurdles for a lot of the products in the space is you have to unfortunately go through that very rough KYC process, and there's a lot of drop-off points when that happens. And so in our case, again, going back to the previous conversation, we can meet them where they're at, and then once they do discover Zoya, it's very simply just downloading an app, creating an account, just username and password, and you're good to go. And then from there, as you're using the platform, you're learning, you're discovering brokers, you're discovering various different investment products, ETFs, mutual funds. A lot of the folks that were on the previous panel, we spend a lot of time answering questions about their products, right? So like we are sort of seen as like the trusted filter, the trusted source, and And so, a lot of Wahid clients would come to us and ask questions about Wahid's ETFs. A lot of Saturna Capital customers would come to us and ask us about Avana mutual funds. Hey, why are there holding so-and-so companies in their portfolio? And so that has enabled us to sort of be that voice that allows us to kind of educate them. And then also now we're opening that up to partner with such providers to more formally kind of offer that educational content where we can invite financial advisors from these firms to come and speak to our users directly and address those concerns.
I'll just add one thing. Like at Mabrook, what we are going to basically tokenize an asset is going to start with $100, right? So the question I had, the challenge from my partner was that how you're going to basically manage the operating cost. And this kind of challenges because, for example, take the profit distribution method, right? So there's a if you subscribe PDM. Back in my days in Dubai Sign Bank and other operations, we had sophisticated core banking, but still we were using Access sheet to calculate those. So what we have attempted in Mabrook, that on Polygon, we have created a smart contract which does the PDM automatically. So you just load it up with some electronic money, and then what it does is that it takes the IFE calculation, and everything is reviewed by Sharia and we are audited, and it's going to start transferring that profit. So I think that's one of the way to reduce the cost as well as make sure that everything is transparent. And good thing is that when things come on blockchain, basically you can go and verify what calculation Fahad has used. Right now it's kind of black box because I don't know, a savings account, if I'm getting $10, then what is the calculation behind it? So we have tried to calculate that as well.
Which is really helpful for the end user, and as both this space and each of your platforms like begins to evolve, how do you see each of these Islamic fintech platforms really balance the automation and Sharia oversight, particularly in areas like you mentioned, like smart contracts and robo-advisors?
Sure, I can go. So it's really interesting because when we set out to build Zoya, we actually wanted to build an investing app first and foremost. And so the major component to any Islamic investment app is the Sharia compliance layer. And so we thought, okay, well, we'll just go buy that data from another provider who already has this information for equities, and we'll simply just filter our platform down to whatever the Sharia compliant options are and make that available to end users with a nice, pretty easy to use app. We were quite naive in that assumption that it would be that easy. We went and spoke with the various different providers in the space and realized there really wasn't a good option for us to work with. And so essentially what we had to do was build that layer ourselves. So in the very beginning, the first thing we solved for was how can we do Sharia compliant screening in-house. And essentially what we did was we built the retail version of, I don't know who's familiar with Ideal Ratings, the company that they're mentioned on the board there. What they do for institutional investors, we did for retail investors. And the way we were able to do that was through the use of technology. So today, fast forward, obviously as I mentioned, we have hundreds of thousands of users. We cover over 40,000 companies on our platform. Our Sharia compliance ratings are up to date on a daily basis. Our data sets refresh. We have both B2C customers as well as B2B customers now we work with. We have an enterprise customer. We have several different financial advisors who use our platform. Can anyone take a guess at how many analysts we have on our team today assisting us on the Sharia compliance side? One, okay. Any other guesses? And just to kind of put it in perspective, so companies like Ideal Ratings and such, or really any kind of ratings agency, they usually have dozens of analysts, huge armies of analysts that are doing this. We have zero. So we do this with absolutely zero analysts on our team. And the way we're able to do that is by leveraging technology. We launched at a time where we had access to very comprehensive financial data sets, both publicly available information as well as proprietary data sets. And then of course our background is we're all engineers, we're not finance guys. And so we came into it with a kind of a fresh perspective, and we were able to build automated systems to do this at a level that was much more granular than the incumbent providers in the space. And so now we're competing with them neck to neck, and at the same time, people trust us more in doing that. Obviously now with AI, we're able to take that even to the next level. So AI has been tremendously helpful for us in terms of, collecting that data, analyzing that data, and then of course also verifying to make sure that everything is being done according to what the Sharia standards require.
Which I think brings up a really interesting point because, with the way how current Sharia governance frameworks are in North America, do you really see this being sufficient enough for such a fast evolving, innovative space that provides DeFi, tokenization, or blockchain-based investing?
So I think we need, so we don't have IFN body in USA, for example, but we can apply the standard. So at Mabrook, we had a channel because coming from UAE and elsewhere, we had Sharia governance framework pushed by the regulator. That you have to follow, okay, here's the policy you have to apply, you have to have audit, monthly audit, 15%, 20%, whatever. In North America, we don't have it, so everybody relies on the Sharia board. So at Mabrook, what we have done is at least we apply the IFN principles. So what we have done, that is starting from the grassroots level, that okay, if we are going to tokenize Sukuk in future, then what is IFN standard 62? What are the credit debit entries? So we have created a type box. And then Sharia has provided us a rule book that, okay, guys, we need this certain reports coming to us. So we have kind of used analytics and provided them the backdoor access to the system to review those samples. And this is how we have done. And of course, above than that, we have to have a proper Sharia governance operational process and procedure and policies. Like we cannot afford like a Sharia unit in our company, but at least we have advisors. So they are coming and they are helping us like in everyday transition, like okay, for example, here's the issues and how we go to structure it on the debt on the equity side. What model you want to follow? It's going to be partnership based or it's going to be lease Jara based. And then based on that, what we have done systematically, that we have created products, and then each product follows again the IPO accounting process. So that's how we are trying to do. Until there's a North America wide standards come in, like regulator push it from the federal level. At least at our level, we can say that we are following IPO structure. So that's what how I see it.
Just to add, I mean, what I said earlier was also not meant to replace the scholars in the space, right? I think that aspect of it always remains where, it's important to have that external certification or advisory board that's giving that stamp of approval to make sure that you're doing things the way that they're supposed to be done. But for everything else, like, it's not a good thing to rely on humans. Humans are very unreliable. So the more you can move away from that, I think the better. And guess what? It's a lot more cost effective for you, and therefore you can pass those savings on to your customers. And so, I think, we've done a great job at sort of championing that for retail investors. This level of data that we make available to them today was previously only available to institutional investors. Now anyone can download our app, get access to it, and start making their own investment decisions. We don't say, hey, self-directed investing is better than working with an advisor. We don't claim that at all. But in the modern day kind of, if you look at the profile of the modern day investor, they want to be able to manage their own investments, and then they have another portion of the portfolio that's being managed by an advisor or through a robo-advisor, and that's totally fine, right? I think we need to make sure that there are options available no matter where they are, what they're looking for. We need to have as many options across the board available for certain methods.
So with all these different regulatory changes that we've seen, whether it be allowing for people to manage their own portfolios or see different standards across AOFI or other global standards, what key regulatory changes would be really helpful both at the federal or even state level to support the growth of such digital investing platforms?
Yeah, I think I will talk about my Canadian experience, which was not so nice. I think it's about, again, it comes to the awareness, because when we combine the Shariah-compliant on those contracts, as someone was also saying that when people, when we talk about Mudarba, Muraba, Musharka, people get a little, excited about that. So it's about awareness. I think first we need a push from the government, that they need to push it down. I mean, we are working, whatever capacity we can, but it has to be pushed from the government. Like when Canada Halal policy came in, at least it was very positive for us. It really helped us to penetrate into OSC, because now they can understand what Fahad is saying, right? Or at least we have some sort of a backup. And once we start that, I think policy has to be made proper. Policy has to be made. For example, in Canada, still we get like an exam market dealer license, but we are not able to access TFSA, which is what tax-free savings account. For that, we have to have a separate structure. Now, in that legal structure, of course, the Sharia compliance 101 is that first you cannot break the law of the land. So you have to live within the laws of the land, and then now you have to structure the Islamic. So that's a bit of struggle, because the security lawyer does not understand it. So, but thankfully, at Mabrook we have very good Sharia board coming from IFN and those background. They help us a lot in structuring those legal agreements. So I think I don't want to claim that, but at least in what are you going to when we are going to do the offering memorandum, there will be a Sharia compliance clauses embedded in the document. So I see it was a struggle. Sometimes we got really frustrated, but at the end we did it. So if it comes from the government side, then I think the things will get much easier.
So now, like, with the next generation of Muslim investors in North America demanding new kinds of financial products, and how are technology firms adapting product development strategies to meet that demand? Is it based on what customers really just want, or is it kind of preemptively predicting what they will see?
Yeah, I mean, look, just like any other business, the customer's always right. And so what we've observed among the community of Zoya users, there's a lot of concerns that get neglected when they try to voice them to existing kind of providers that are out there today. So whether it's existing ETF providers, mutual fund providers, so on and so forth, a lot of it, for example, with what's happening in the world right now, a lot of investors want to divest from certain companies, or because they have personal reasons, boycott reasons, whatever, and they're not able to do that through their existing funds, right? Because you're locked into whatever the fund is doing, and so they'll reach out and plead to these companies and say, hey, can you remove so and so company from your fund? But if it's an index fund, they're just simply tracking an index, and they don't have much ability to customize it beyond that. And so these investors are being forced to turn to platforms like us and self-manage their portfolio to the best of their ability. And so we thought, okay, well, even we believe that picking your own stocks is not a good thing. Like, we never preached that, even though we kind of built our platform to service the DIY investor. So we thought, okay, well, what can we do to address these concerns? And so on one hand, you have your ETFs and robo-advising stuff, completely hands-off managed investing services. But on the other side of it, you have your completely DIY investor, and you download Robinhood or Schwab or whatever, and you make your own trades. So can we build something in between that serves kind of, it behaves sort of like an ETF, but you have full, you can customize it as much as you need to remove any companies that you don't want. And so we introduced something called baskets. And so baskets within Zoya are basically pre-curated collections of stocks that revolve around certain themes, strategies, and ideas. And users can invest in a basket, so there might be 20, 30, 40 stocks in a basket. They're all Sharia compliant, and they can just buy the basket in one transaction right through our platform. And so we extended that idea further to say, hey, well, what if you started with an ETF or a mutual fund as your template? So what if you said, hey, I want to buy QQQ, but I don't want to include these 10 companies in my fund? And so now through Zoya, you can go and create a basket that is effectively a Sharia-compliant subset of QQQ, or any ETF that's out there. And so what that does is it gives you the ability to personalize it, customize it, while still tracking the strategy of the source fund. And so what we'll do is we'll keep that in sync as the user is investing. We'll always update the basket based on their criteria. This has been a profoundly successful feature. It is very popular. We see thousands of dollars invested in baskets every single day. And we've partnered with brokers to make this possible. So we have certain brokers that allow for fractional trading, commission-free trading, both in the US, Canada. We work with Questrade, the largest broker in Canada, Simple. In the US, we have a few partners as well, and we're working on other partners globally. And that, I feel like, is directly addressing the problem that they have. And I think, again, it wouldn't have been possible if it weren't for the kind of fintech landscape that exists today, allowing these types of things to happen. So we don't need to solve all the problems ourselves, but we can just piggyback off of existing platforms that are already out there. We just unify it into one experience and make it super easy for them.
Which is, I think, the whole point of Islamic finance is really just making it accessible to everyone. And so, with that, to what extent is tokenization creating new access points for Sharia-compliant investments, whether it be in real estate, commodities, or even Sukuk?
So at Mabrook, what I have written at least in retail lending, when people invest, they don't have access to those assets. So for example, one of the projects we're going to start with probably is going to be a rental building. It's going to be 4 million days, and we're going to inject the retail investor right from the building, not FDI. So what they will do is that when we're going to start the construction, the token price or the asset price will increase, and they're going to not even they're going to enjoy the capital gain as well as when the building is ready, they will also get the monthly rental in their pocket. Right? Everything is seamless. And the other pain point we had was the lock-up period. First is that accessible. Okay, can I invest in $100? Yes, you can. As far as you are KYC compliant, then you can just do that, and then the token is transferred to your wallet. Now, can I exit? That is the marketplace. So the secondary market comes into the play where you can trade the token. So you can do B2B. Now in Canada, we did not get the license, so because we are routed to sandbox now, because they really want to test it out. But we have also applied for license in El Salvador, or maybe we'll go to maybe US. So we'll activate that. So what is going to happen is that we see a lot of retail investors coming in, who are the investors from different walk of the life. But we also see the crypto world also coming, because now we see people investing, and we see, because a lot of time I get like a challenge that, okay, where you going to find that liquidity? And I always give example that if Trump coin or all those meme coin can be sold, billions of dollars, why not this tangible asset can be sold as well? You just have to structure it right. So we also see that a lot of people migrating from that 3.4 market cap or 550 million people to here as well. So at Mabrook, we are trying to align both. So you can, even if you don't know blockchain or you don't know how to manage an on-chain wallet, it's a very simple UX. As Saad is saying that UX is very important. As well as we also want the crypto guys to come in on board, on ramp and also. That's what we're trying to do. Make it super accessible. You trade, you exit. Later on in the roadmap, we are also planning to secure those assets, like flag those, and then start loan it. But you can go 70-80% LTV, and we can also finance those. So that's on the horizon as well.
Yeah, I can't speak too much to that, but there's some interesting projects that are coming up. I mean, I think tokenized real estate is really cool to see, and then there's also a few companies that are trying to tokenize stocks, right? So the idea there is to make it much easier for folks outside the U.S. to access U.S. stocks via tokenization, and that allows for 24/7 trading and so on and so forth. And so those are pretty exciting projects to see.
Yeah. And personally, what I feel and more keen to test out is these tokenization, because I think the SME financing is a big gap. We have seen Canada like take example of Halal meals. They will make $6 million, but they need Halal funding, and they're doing pretty well. So we can find those. There are a couple of guys who are selling silverware. So I said, okay, why don't we tokenize your container, which is coming from China. So those are double-digit high return at the horizon, like 3 months turnaround time. So we're seeing a lot of activity there as well.
No, that's actually really interesting. From silverware to other things being able to be tokenized. But with that, there's obviously some risk, right? So what risk should North American-based investors and regulators be really aware of, especially in this Islamic fintech space? As you kind of see that's pretty much lightly regulated, or there's a lot of digital assets too. So how would you kind of understand that?
So risk is risk, right? So I always say garbage in, garbage out. So you have to find a good class of assets. You have to have a proper books, and at Mabrook we have some dedicated financial analysts. Inshallah, when we are going to launch, they will be reviewing the pipeline. If the books are not correct, they are going to make sure that they combine the books in some way. Once that is done, then we have a proper risk regime and Sharia compliance. Sharia compliance always increase the what you call the scrutiny of the risk as well. So we kind of apply mix both of them, and then we underwrite. We underwrite. We insure those assets as well. We try to protect this. And if it is not the issuance is not worthy one, then we don't do that. That's what we're going to do. And then at the life cycle of it, what we have done in Mabrook is that we have created sort of milestones on a smart contract. So what is going to happen is that once the issuance is going to start, before that you're going to give us a milestone, and based on that, the money will move from escrow to milestone achieved. And if you miss the milestone, then the money is not coming to you. So we have tried to put some gates there just to mitigate this. That's some sort of automation we have done.
And I guess for final question, what are the most promising areas for collaboration between both Islamic fintech startups and larger existing financial institutions to scale impact and also increase trust?
So, we see a lot of folks come to us with, for example, their 401k accounts at Fidelity or whatever company it is, and they turn to us to give them guidance as to how do I navigate this from an Islamic perspective. But can you tell me which option I should select? Can you tell me my portfolio is Shariah-compliant? How do I purify it? What do I do with it? And we haven't done a great job at addressing that, but we're seeing a ton of, a lot of people discover us through that kind of specific problem. And so we've produced some educational content around that, and so that's been helpful. But I would love to be able to go to Fidelity, for instance, and say, hey, look, Zoya users represent over $100 million in assets in Fidelity, and yet you guys do nothing to, serve them and their needs. And so let's collaborate. Let us help you create something to essentially serve them better. And so I think that at that scale, it becomes a very obvious thing. I think when we first started, we didn't have that sort of leverage, but now we do. And now that we have hundreds of millions of dollars in assets on our platform, we can go and come in strong and confident and ask them to do these things. Because otherwise they know that those assets will be moved away, right? Because we'll just advise them to go somewhere else. And so that's kind of the role that we're playing today. The next phase of our business will be taking those assets that we're already sort of not advising, quote unquote, but assisting our users with, to converting them to our own assets under management. And that's going to be kind of the next big thing for us. But until then, we're certainly open to collaborating with the providers that are out there and seeing how we can. By the way, there's a lot of interest. I mean, I singled out Fidelity, but there are other major brokers and investment platforms that are reaching out to us, interested in integrating Shariah-compliant data into their product. These are some of the largest, financial data websites in the world. These are some of the largest brokerage firms in the world that are interested in doing this because they're seeing the demand.
So for tokenization, there are a lot of use cases. One of the best use cases is custody of the asset. So when we tokenize, of course, there's custody of the token. We really want the FIs to come forward. And It's in a very early stage. A lot of use cases are happening, but we see it fast coming, and we are ready for that. So at Mabrook, we expose an API, so if there is a FI who is willing to basically host the tokens or take the custody of the assets, then we can do that. The other thing is that, as I mentioned, that once we tokenize asset, we kind of know all about the customer, starting from the ID of the customer on the blockchain, the value of the assets. So what we can do is that we can collaborate with the FIs to basically start financing, like providing some letters, some sort of that. That's the secondary stage.
Okay. Now, we have time for just one lucky question. Does anyone want to? Oh, there we go.
Question for Brother Fahad. I spoke about 5 or 6 different tokenization platform providers. So in a nutshell, right, they say talk to the attorneys, that's 30K to 150K. Identify exchange and custodian, and then come talk to us. And oh, by the way, it might still be cost prohibitive, right? When do you see all this, come to fruition, right? I mean, it's and they say have a strong business and marketing plan as well, right? There's no secondary market, I think is the biggest thing. So what can be done to create that appetite for the secondary market?
Secondary market, I think the way it's going to work is that first the product has to be absolutely phenomenal. Like you cannot just take a low quality asset. Volatility happen because you are short of investors, right? So what we witness is that if your product is right, and this is why Mabrook is very focused on the comparing the product with the conventional counterpart. So if let's say the traditional market or the conventional market is 6.5 average, right? So we try to push it to 8% somehow, right? We optimize it, reducing the cost, reducing the pricing. So that's the first one. And the second is we have to also connect that secondary market to the blockchain mode also, the crypto side as well. So we can collaborate with existing players who are providing the secondary liquidity, staking for example. So we can also create some product which is Islamic on secondary market. So you stake, and you are saying, I don't want your token, I don't want to invest in your real estate investment, I don't want to do that. I want to invest in your pool of funds. So Moderator can play a role here. So Moderator can be there, and then we can divert that Moderator, we can take it as a land bank or something, and then we can invest into somewhere, and then we can churn the profit. And maybe we can do lending side of that, and then we can generate that profit from the lending side and then bring it to the staking side. So those can also basically help with the secondary marketplace to ensure that there is ample amount of liquidity for the trade. If I answer.
We'll continue, we'll talk offline.
Yeah, sure.
With that, round of applause.